Katarina, how's it going? So thanks for the videos. Awesome to see you playing some drums. Things are going really well. So let's jump into our backbeat grooves that we've been working on. So I got a couple notes here. The first backbeat sounds awesome. Really great. Things are precise. It's memorized. It looks pretty effortless. You're doing a great job keeping that right hand forward, and you're hitting harder. Everything sounds rocking. It sounds rocking. So nice work there. The second backbeat groove is really close. I mean, you got it memorized. You know the part. You're playing it. The mix is nice. Things are loud and things are punchy. I just wanted to point out one little thing. So looking at this page, okay, let me get this where you could actually see it. Tricky. Okay, so we're looking at here. Oh boy, this is hard to get perfectly in the light. Okay, that's pretty good. These two 16th notes and the kick drum. Occasionally, they were not like super lined up with your right hand, and I'll demonstrate this in a minute. The rest of the beat was totally cool. It was just a little bit of a consistency issue in the kick drum on those two 16th notes, the E of 3 and the and of 3. So let me try to play it as perfectly as I can for you. And we're at 60. Nice job on the 60. This sounds really good. See, they start to sound like beats when we get them a little faster, right? So it seemed like 60 was fairly comfortable to you. I don't know. Seemed cool. So just as a reference, these type of beats, they'll go all the way up to like 90 or higher. Once we get above the 70 range, there's a special technique that we have to start to learn in the right hand in order to be able to play these faster. And that's not something we're going to get into right now. And maybe not anytime soon. I don't know. I'll think about that. It gets a little technical, a little boring perhaps, and I feel like I'm already hitting you with some fairly technical, boring things. Hopefully it's not too bad. So, if we could stay at 60, maybe get them up to 70 without having to introduce that new right-hand technique at the moment, that's fine with me. So we're at 60. I'm going to play the second backbeat for you. And I'm going to try to play it nice and perfect and clean. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now I'm going to play probably a really bad, exaggerated version of what you were doing with those two kick drum notes and see if you can hear the difference. 2, 3, 4. So that's really hard for me to try to do on purpose. So I don't know if you heard that. It is kind of subtle. Maybe listen again and see if you can hear the difference just in those two 16th note bass drums. Basically what's happening is occasionally you are swinging them a little bit. So that's also sort of a complicated thing to try to explain on a video right now. But I think as long as maybe your ears can kind of hear the difference, that's all we need at this point. So let me play it without the right hand, and that might help. So let me give you a perfect non-swingy version, and then I'll give you the swingier version, and see if you can hear the difference in those two kick drums. It's just the placement of them ends up being different, whether you're playing it like perfectly straight like I did first versus a little bit swung. So here's perfect-ish. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now here's a little bit swingier. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I think that's a little more obvious without the right hand, making things sound cleaner than they are. So hopefully you can hear that. Basically the swingier version, the kick drum notes are a little closer together. And we'll get into talking about all that kind of stuff. Of course, you can play things swingy or super swung or just a little bit swung and all these things. But that kind of goes down a rabbit hole, which I don't think we should get into at this point. So the goal is to just really keep your 16th notes super straight and even. So basically, any kind of 16th note that happens in the bass drum should really match up perfectly with your right hand. So I hope this helps a little bit. I'm kind of splitting some hairs with this, getting very picky, but you know me. I think it was worth mentioning. And cool, let's move on. So the third backbeat groove, I think you know this, and I think you have it, but for whatever reason, you weren't really pulling it off on the video. So let me just play it for you again. At 60. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so what we're going to do with these is, ready for this? We're going to move the right hand over to the ride cymbal, and we're going to add in the left foot doing different things. So now we're going to have a four-way coordination thing going on. So for me, this is kind of what really attracted me to the instrument for a long time, was this sort of coordination thing of having 4 different things going on at the same time. And it can be hard to get this together. It certainly takes a lot of practice. But just that idea of all the limbs of your body are moving at the same time, doing different things, and you're able to pull it off and make it feel good. That was always really what attracted me to this instrument, and I just thought I'd mention that. You may feel differently, but it's kind of fun. Once you actually get it happening, it's like, whoa, okay, I can do this, and it's like, it's pretty cool. So, let's see, I got this page, which is a new page, which I will send you a PDF of, and this is called LF, left foot options for backbeat grooves. So left foot options. So the hi-hat with the foot, basically. Left foot options. So you can see there's how many here? 4? There's 4 on this page. Okay. So these are kind of some of the most common ones. They happen all the time in music. And we're just going to look at the first one for this week. And depending on how that goes, we may have to stay there for a minute, or maybe by next week I can show you the second one. But the first one, it's so hard to get this showing up. The first one is just, there we go, quarter notes. So those are quarter notes. And I should mention, down here at the very bottom of the staff, in this bottom space, that's where we write the left foot hi-hat. And because it's a symbol, we use an X, not a dot like a drum. So I'm glad I remembered to mention that. So all of these are written in the same space, right? And they all refer to the left foot playing the hi-hat. So the first one is just quarter notes. So we're going to add quarter notes into our left foot while we play the rest of those backbeat grooves with the other 3 limbs. So I kind of did this lesson for someone else a couple weeks ago. So I'm just going to insert that video here, I think. So why am I doing that? Because there's a couple different ways of playing the hi-hat with your left foot, which involved me putting another camera on my foot and doing a whole bunch of editing, which took a really long time. So I think it's just easier to just insert that clip now. Okay, cool. So I got a little foot cam on my left foot so you can see what that looks like. So basically I have this toe, heel thing going on my left foot, which it may seem a little weird, right? Because the heel doesn't actually make any sound. But as far as locking into a really good groove, at this tempo with what I'm playing, that's kind of the motion that's required. So the quarter notes in the left foot are played with the toe, and then the offbeat 8th notes, or the ands, are played with the heel. So just the hi-hat itself looks like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this will be the challenge for you. You could play all these beats with just the toe and the heel is up a little bit, and that would look like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. You could also play all of these beats with the toe and the heel down the whole time, and that would look like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. But the heel toe is the one that feels best once you get the hang of it, and it really locks in the groove. So it makes it super solid, and it makes it so that you're not going to rush or drag so much, and just really locks everything in. It may feel like a little bit more of a coordination challenge for you initially, but it's well worth the effort to try to get that right now. This will come up a lot in the left foot. When we start looking at jazz, it comes up a lot, and it comes up a lot in all kinds of styles of music, different tempos, different grooves. So you may want to spend some time just initially not even worrying about putting these grooves with the left foot and just playing the left foot like quarter notes. Just turn on your metronome and play toe, heel, toe, heel, toe, heel, toe, heel, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and. So the toe comes down on the downbeat quarter notes, and the heel hits the pedal board on the upbeat eighth notes. So I have this very balanced seesaw motion going on, and it's equal, right? It's toe, heel, toe, heel, toe, heel. It's not toe, heel, toe, heel, toe, heel, right? They're very even. It's as if you're playing eighth notes, but you're doing it in your left foot as toe, heel. So, I would probably spend some time just doing that with a metronome, just your left foot. Set a timer for 5 minutes or 10 minutes and do that a bunch of times throughout the day and just get super comfortable with that. And then you start trying to put it with these grooves. If this is way too much to try to do in a week, I totally get it. Maybe just start with the first one, and you may have to sort of subtract some of the bass drum stuff in that first one in order to get the coordination. So a way you could ease into this is looking at the first one. You could just play the very first bass drum note on beat 1, and then ignore the other bass drum notes. The and of 2, beat 3, the E of 3. Just ignore that initially. Just put bass drum on beat 1 and try to get that happening with the left foot. Okay, so that might look like this. Whoops, messed up my metronome here. Okay, I'm going to demonstrate this. Another thing I should mention, it may help to get your left foot going first and then bring in the rest of the beat. It can be really hard to start all 4 limbs at the same time. So there's nothing wrong with doing it that way. So I'm going to get my left foot going first, and then I'm going to play the first one on the page with just the bass drum on beat 1. So I get my left foot going, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then I'm going to bring in the rest of the beat. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, once that feels good, just add the next bass drum note. Just add the and of 2. So you're playing bass drum on 1, in the end of 2 and get comfortable with that. 2, ready, go. Okay, and then you just keep going. You add the next bass drum note, get comfortable with that. Add the next bass drum note, get comfortable with that. Before you know it, you have the whole beat going with your left foot, and you have that nice toe heel thing going on with your left foot, and everything's going to feel great. So just do the best you can. It's going to be a bit of work to get it going, but I think you'll dig this. Okay, so we're back from that clip. Do whatever you can in a week, you know, with the amount of time that you practice. This stuff can be tricky, and I think I demonstrated 2 different ways of playing the hi-hat with my left foot in that clip. I'm forgetting now. I think so. Something like that. So try what I explained, and for now, go with whatever is easier. But know that eventually we want to be able to have those kind of multiple techniques going in our left foot, because they come up in other types of beats and in other types of music. But for now, go with what is easier to play, so you can actually just start to get this 4-way coordination going. And if it takes you an entire week to just get really comfortable with the first backbeat on this page, playing it with the left foot, that's totally cool. And we'll just chip our way through these. So, cool. What else we got? Fills. One little thing, so when you play your crash, you want to hit the crash, so let's pretend this is a crash. You want to hit the crash on the edge, not on the top, and you want to use the shoulder of your stick, like this part, not the tip. So it seemed to me like you were playing with the tip and sort of hitting it on top, and we'll do that for certain things at certain times, but that's typically more of a ride cymbal way of playing a cymbal. And when it comes to a crash, we really want that full crash, like loud and sustain, and we really want it to pop out. So in order to make that happen, we have to hit it fairly hard, usually, and with this chunkier shoulder part of the stick, and really on the edge of the cymbal. It looked to me like the cymbal was set up pretty well for you. If it has too much angle to it, like if it's too steep of an angle, then it might be hard to hit the edge, in which case you'd want to flatten out your cymbal a little bit more, like that, or maybe raise it up a tiny bit, so that you can really hit the edge and get that full crash. Don't be afraid to hit that thing, because that's what it's there for. Cool. So, fill number 1, I had written here that a couple times you were leading the fill with your left hand. It's kind of a problem because we go left, right, middle tom, left, right, and then crash. So we end up with 2 rights in a row at the end of the fill. So you're ending off with a right on your middle tom here, and then you got to jump over right away with the same hand to play a crash. Then you got to jump back to the hi-hat with the same hand. And it's kind of doable because the tempo is slow right now, but that's just not doable once it gets faster. And we're right-handed, just like lead everything with your right hand. You probably just like forgot or whatever, it's no big deal, but just something to pay attention to when working on that fill. Just make sure you're starting that fill with your right hand so that, you know, it makes sense and it's efficient and things flow the right way. other than that, it sounded great. Very cool. The beat was right. It was correct. Everything was grooving. The fill was good, other than leading it with your left hand sometimes. Cool. So, fill number 2. Notes here. It was good. Once or twice, you were sort of maybe just forgetting for a second and going from the beat to the fill. You would put in a little extra space or whatever, and so it's just worth pointing out. The fill was correct, the beat was correct. It's just making sure you're flowing in and out of those with that tempo staying consistent. They go right in and out of each other, so that's good. Let's look at fill number 3. So, fill number 3, put my metronome on here. I'm going to go down to 50, because fill number 3 is pretty fast. And I'm thinking for you, 50 is doable, but you might want to bump it down even to 45 or 40 if you have to. So I'm not going to try to hold this up to the camera again because it's really hard to get it so you can see it. But I am looking at our fills page, and I'm looking at the third one, the third line. So the beat's the same, right? For now, we're just looking at the fill at the end. So we have snare drum going to high tom, which is the tom right in front of you. And these are actually 30-second notes, which is why it looks so crazy. But at 50, or a little slower, they're not crazy fast. So basically, they're twice the speed of 16th notes. If you were to look at the first fill on this page, it's like double that, and instead of going to the middle tom, you're going to the high tom. So let me stop trying to explain this, and I'll just play it for you. So I'm at 50, and I'll go through this line a couple times, and we'll talk about that fill. One, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so, hopefully you can hear that. It's not crazy, it's pretty simple. It's just right, left, right, left, right, left. It's the same single stroke sticking, starting with the right hand, of course, and it just happens to be twice as fast as the 16th notes. So, another way to kind of look at this is that the speed of your right hand playing 16th notes on the hi-hat, that doesn't change. So when I go hi-hat to fill, I'll leave the left hand out when I play the fill, and you'll hear the speed is the same. Okay? So in a way, the right hand, it doesn't change speed, We're just adding in the left hand in between all those right hand notes when we play the fill. And I'm making my right hand louder on purpose so you can hear that it's not changing speed. Okay? Just as an example. Now, of course, we want those to be the same volume, the right hand and the left hand, ideally. So we end up with a nice clean fill. And then it's just the same thing, getting back to your crash and getting back to the beat and having that all be smooth. So I hope that makes sense. Don't be too scared by the 30-second notes. It's a pretty simple fill, pretty simple concept. See how it goes. If it's giving you trouble, ask me questions and we'll work it out. Cool. All right. Roughs. Looking at our rudiment page. So I know your dad said you didn't really look at this too much. That's okay. So let me just give it to you again right now based on what I saw you doing. So actually here, let me play them at 50. Let me play some roughs at 50 and then we'll talk about it. 2, 3, 4. Now I'll do the other side, left-handed roughs, because the accent is on the left hand. 3, 4. Okay, so they're pretty tight together, right? The rights and the lefts. Those two little notes that come before the accent are pretty close together, but they're not a buzz. It's just a matter of practicing them and like watch the way I play them and listen to the way they sound and do your best to sort of mimic what I'm doing. What else do I want to say about this? Probably go super slow. So I was playing at those at 50. What if you did them at 50, but half that speed? So like this. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's at 50 being the quarter note. So essentially I changed my roughs to be like a quarter note and a quarter rest, or a half note, if you will. So I'm just playing on the 1s and the 3s, so it's super slow, and you can just sit there and really kind of train your arms and your hands to be able to pull this off. It's definitely not about speed at this point. It's just about training your hands to be able to play it fairly correctly. And then, of course, the right-handed ones versus the left-handed ones, they're going to feel very different, and you're trying to get them the same. So I'll just demonstrate that again. So we're just playing on beat 1 and 3 at 50. And I think this is probably a good way to go for it, to go about it for right now, for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'd practice like that for a while, just working on my right-handed roughs, and then I would practice my left-handed roughs. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. All right, so maybe show me that for next week. It's not about speed. We're just trying to train your arms and your hands to play a rough. Cool. I think that's it for today. So feel free to ask me any questions. I'm getting a little feedback from your dad in the emails every week, but which is helpful. But if you have any questions or anything you gotta say, like just ask me in the video or whatever, and I'll make sure to answer your questions or whatever. Cool. Alrighty, so I'll see you next week. Thanks a lot. Bye.